Listen closely. The legacy you leave will not be defined by how much money you make.
That's a good thing. And I just know that as rich as my heritage and culture is, that needs to be folded up into the legacy that we leave our children.
Dead ass. 1, 2, 3. It all started with real talk, unfiltered, honest, and straight from the heart. Since then, we've gone on to become Webby Award-winning podcasters and New York Times best-selling authors.
Deadass was more than a podcast for us. It was about our growth. A place where we could be vulnerable, be raw.
Pause. But most importantly, be us.
But as we know, life keeps evolving, and so do we. And through it all, one thing has never changed.
This is Ellis Ever After. Dead ass.
Because we got a lot to talk about.
Story time. So, as you all know, we have 4 beautiful boys. And over the past, I say, year, I've learned a lot about raising our children.
Just in the past year?
Yes, I'll say in the past year, mainly because Jackson turned 13.
Okay.
And as for many of you know, in other cultures, you turn 13. In Jewish culture, you have a bar mitzvah. Even in I think in Latino culture, when you turn 13 for girls, or it's 15 for girls, you have a quinceañera.
Yeah.
So it's like that age, that turning 13 in many cultures is a sign of becoming an adult. And recently, I realized with Jackson that there's more teaching that goes into teaching a young man how to be a man than it teaches him how to do anything that's in association with his occupation. So for example, Jackson and I had gone through this back and forth with football and basketball. And I realized, you know what? I'm going to back up a little bit and not hover. Brought Jay down here from New York so that he can be his basketball mentor, kind of like an uncle, so that I could still be dad, but I knew someone who has the same intensity for sports to coach him. One day, Jay was like, yo, Jax, we got 5 a.m.s. So Jax, being Jax at 13, was up. 5 a.m. 5:32, I get a text message from Jay. Literally, yo, D, I fucked up. This is the text message, right? And then I say, text message, what happened? You're supposed to be here. He calls me. He said, yo, I got sick last night. I actually got really sick, passed out on the floor, woke up this morning, and it's 5:30. I got a long text message from Jackson, right? The text message said something like this. This is a 13-year-old. Hey, Jay, I have to be at school for 8 o'clock. You told me to be here at 5. You told me to be up at 5 a.m. so you could pick me up. I'm up and you're not here. We talk about trust in this house. And if you expect me to trust you, you have to be a man of your word because words have power. I could have got more sleep. So I'm not going to do 6 a.m. I'm going back to sleep. And he proceeded to go back to sleep. And then Papa took him to school. And then Jay said to me like, yo, D, I had to grow up in that moment because the man in me wanted to be upset that he was talking to me. But then I also realized that he was mature and actually right.
Right.
And I know this story was about me teaching was supposed to be about me teaching my son how to do something outside of sports, but it was ultimately my son teaching another man about something because that was something that he learned from his father. And for me, that's the important part about the legacy, is the man aspect of it. When he said the words like, you have to be a man of your word and words have power, I know that that's something that he got from me because I say that all the time.
All the time. All the time.
And when Jay read the text from me, I was pissed, first of all, you had my son wake up, but I was also proud. That Jackson not only stood his ground, but he was eloquent in his words. So
eloquent and respectful.
That's my boy, man.
Yeah. That's what we teach, accountability in this house, all right? Everybody has to follow suit.
What? It's a long flight, and I've been up 24 hours. So I got my bonnet. You look at it and bring the whole pillow with the satin pillowcase and whatnot.
At Delta, we think our world feels smaller when you get out in it. That's why the best men and women in the business work each day.
You not lit. You not lit. You not lit. So with that being said, you had a karaoke song.
I did.
A karaoke song, which is funny because yesterday we was arguing about who has the most. So you know what I like?
What's
Come up
that?
with yours.
Okay.
And I'll do mine. And then it don't have to be one karaoke.
I mean, that's true.
You know what I'm saying?
If it's fitting for us to have
If
two.
it's fitting, so
I mean,
good.
initially when I said mine, you were like, oh, that's what I was thinking of, but then you had something else. So
I know, I
worked
do
out.
think, because it was the first thing that came up when we talked about legacy was.
Right.
You
Oh,
know
well,
that.
of course, Jay-Z legacy, right? Makes sense. Legacy, Black excellency. Let them see.
Let them see.
Yeah.
But then I started thinking about the spoken word. This is from the Blueprint 2 album.
Mm-hmm.
Jay-Z said this at the end of the first song. I see, I said. Jealousy, I said. Got the whole industry mad at me, I said.
You used to listen to this all the time.
Then B, I said, Hov, remind yourself. Nobody built like you. You design yourself. I see, I said, my one-of-a-kind self. Getting stoned every day like Jesus did.
Mm-hmm.
What he said, I said, has been said before. So keep doing your thing, he said. Say no more. That's legacy to me,
fire.
bro. Like, it gives me chills to even say that.
Right.
And think about what it means.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the idea of getting stoned every day like Jesus did, it's like, yo, my legacy is that I'm not going to follow and do everything everybody else. I am going to do something outside the box. That's my legacy.
Yeah.
My legacy is I'm going to do something that's never been done, and people will crucify me for it because it's never been done. But at the very end, he said, I see, I said, what's been said before. Keep doing your thing, he said. Say no more, just like Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what they say about you, keep doing your thing, because your thing will ultimately become the trend one day.
Yeah.
It's a fact.
And if not, at least you'll be happy with being yourself.
Amen.
And that's ultimately what we're teaching these boys.
Amen.
I love that.
Amen.
All right, y'all, let's take a quick break. We're going to pay some bills, and then we're going to get back into the meat of the show. So stick around.
Legacy, baby.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
How you gonna get that down?
I don't know. I don't know.
If I can't get it, then I can throw one of y'all up there.
I don't know. Dad can do it. I think he's done like some stuff like these movies.
I just wish I had some room to run. Oh, come on, man. Don't ever in your life second guess your father. All right, we back.
All right, now, for DeVal's favorite part of the show.
This is my favorite part of the show.
Yeah.
Y'all know that. Op or no op? Triple!
What we got going on today, girl?
Well, since we're talking about legacy today, I heard that Stephen A. Smith and LeBron James got into it courtside at a Lakers game a few weeks ago.
Oh, I did see that.
I guess Bronny James was playing particularly poorly that game, and Stephen A. Smith must have been saying something courtside, so LeBron went up to him, and reportedly, according to Smith, he said, stop effing with my son.
Mm-hmm.
That's my son. So my question is about nepotism. Op or no op in this situation?
About nepotism?
Yeah.
Oh, I have a strong opinion about this. I'm
Go
all
for
for
it.
nepotism.
Facts.
Say more. Tell
This
me more.
country was built on nepotism.
Mm-hmm.
They just mad because now we're using nepotism.
Mm-hmm.
And even in a more poignant point, when it comes to the James family, LeBron James has made a shit ton of money for not only the NBA, but ESPN and Nike, right? Can we all agree that?
Yep.
He's
Absolutely.
made billions of dollars for those three companies, right?
Mm-hmm.
People have a problem with his son being drafted into the NBA, right? And him getting a $7 million deal. I challenge anyone to go back in time and look at all of the draft picks at that time. They all got the same amount of deal. They all got about 7 million. Some got more, some got 9 million.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's a 55th pick, right, Josh?
Yeah.
So people were upset that he got $7 million. This also shows you the ignorance. People see something and automatically assume that Bronny James got more than everybody else until they do research and realize he didn't get more than everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
But also, let me ask you this. If you made billions of dollars for three companies, right? Why would you put your son into the NCAA to make more money for the NCAA when you can put him where you can make sure that he's taken care of, where he can learn about the game and make his own money? Don't that seem like it just makes sense?
Paid internship.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like at this point, it's really not even nepotism. It's just smart. You know, that's my son.
Mm-hmm.
I make this company all of this money. He's going to grow here where I can make sure that he's protected. I'm also going to make sure he grows in a place where he's not making another institution money, because Bron never went to the NCAA. He went straight out of high school. So I understand it. I understand the mentality. I think that people don't realize that they're playing a different game You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Bron is an icon.
Right.
His son is not going to do things the way every other child does, and I think people are upset about that. But I don't think it's quote unquote nepotism. And even if it is nepotism, go ahead and nepotize your way to the top. Because I played in the NFL where every coach's son is on staff.
That's a
Every
fact.
owner's son is
You're right.
on staff. Like there's people who are GMs who have no football experience because their father was in the front office. So if we don't have a problem with that, I don't have a problem with this.
Remember in college, we went to, at Hofstra, one of my residents who was living on my floor, okay, woke up one middle of the night to someone.
This is a great story.
Someone was in my dorm room. So this is when I was living in the towers, right?
Yeah.
So I was in charge of my entire 9th floor.
Mhm.
DeVal and I were in my little twin-size bed, asleep, middle of the night. I was the RA on duty that night.
Big spoon, little spoon.
Big
on a
spoon, little
twin-size
spoon in
bed.
a twin-size bed, right? And then I hear in my sleep, like water's running. I'm like, am I dreaming? Like, what's going on? Open my eyes, and there is a young man in my room in the dark taking a piss in my garbage can.
Mhm.
In my room.
I wasn't there.
Nah,
In my room.
I was there.
So I jump out the bed. DeVal jumps out the bed. We were like, oh my God.
I
DeVal
went to go
goes to
grab him.
jump and grab him.
Kay goes, no, he's peeing.
I was like, he's pee.
Could you
I mean, like
imagine?
long stream pee. Like he was clearly like super inebriated
No, yeah.
and on something, right? So I'm like, don't. So he like literally comes to when we turn on the lights and he sees like he's
Yeah.
in the room with me
He
and
looked
DeVal.
around like,
And he was like, oh
oh
shit.
shit, I'm in the wrong room.
So I was like, I said his name and I was like, you better get the fuck out my room and take the garbage can with you.
This is the funniest part though. This is the funniest part. He picks up the garbage can and goes into the bathroom to clean it out, right? Public safety comes, they're all former football players. Because once she called, they run upstairs like, yo, D, you good? I'm saying, yeah, dude's in the bathroom. They come back laughing. And I said, what happened? They're like, yo, DeVal, go in the bathroom. I go in the bathroom. Dude is in the shower with the garbage can, fully clothed, and
Just
all
holding
of the
All
water
the,
was going-
running on
just
him
running on
and
him.
running out of the garbage can.
And the dude was just like, they were like, he's on something other than
just alcohol.
Yep.
Made no sense.
So they took care of him, took him to the hospital, make sure he didn't have anything. So a couple days later, I go by, he lived down the dorm.
Down the hall from
K.
me. Yeah.
So I knock on the door and I'm like, yo, what's the deal? Like, real talk. Like, you party Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Like, how? Like, how? It's like, dude, undergrad's a fucking joke. It's my 5th year. My dad owns Vitamin World. When I graduate, I'm going to sit on the board. I'm going to make like $250K. That's literally what he told me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I said, that's a different game y'all playing.
Right.
Mhm.
Bro, like undergrad to them was a place to go socialize, sow your
Absolutely.
wild oats, do
Yep.
all these things.
Have fun, travel.
He said, my dad said, if I get my degree, then I can sit on the board. Not when, if. But he was just there
Mhm.
5 years. And when he gets his degree, he gets to sit on the board and make $250,000. And that's nepotism. They have no problem with that. So
Mhm.
that's a great story. I'm glad you brought that up.
So for me, I'm just like, they be over here doing it all the time. They put their kids in positions to, at minimum, make 6 figures sitting on a
Right.
board with the potential to, if they were invested in the company, potentially rise in the
Right.
company. So I'm like,
Right.
baby, I'm going to do the same thing for my children because guess
Right.
what? We've been over here busting our ass to make a
Facts.
way.
Facts.
And one thing DeVal and I are teaching our kids, regardless, when you think of just the overarching topic of legacy, it's like you have to build a certain character in
Yes.
general to go through life with. So I'm all for being able to put your kids on.
Facts.
Is Bronny a good player? I don't really pay as much
I mean,
attention.
he just played. By the time this comes out, y'all seen it. He just had his career high last night. He had 17, 5 and 2.
So I mean, he's just starting.
Now I'm gonna be fair because people are gonna say, "Oh, they was getting blown out." I don't care if they was getting blown out. And I think he's averaging over 20 in the G League.
Yeah.
And the number 2 pick from this year, I think, is in the G League and averages less points than Bronny. So it's like, I think it's number 2 or number 3. I don't. Some sports people gonna be like, no, it's not the number 2, it's the number 4. I
Right.
don't give a shit.
Right.
Dude just scored 17 points last night in an NBA game. You cannot tell me he don't belong in the NBA.
Come on now. Exactly. And they're expecting him to come fresh out of wherever he's coming out of school to be at the same level of his father. Like, come on.
Also, there's so many other nuances here that people don't realize. 2 years ago, Bronny had a heart condition that almost cost him his life.
I
Right?
remember, yeah.
At this point, if I'm a dad, I don't give a shit.
Period.
about what people think about what I'm going to do for my son.
Yep.
Like if this is going to, and I don't want to put this, I say it shortens his life. I'm going to give my son every
Yeah, God
opportunity
forbid.
now to get his dream.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because what if you get some report that, hey, he only has a couple more years to play basketball before he has to chill? Okay, these are things they're not going to disclose to us.
Mm-hmm.
But he getting there, you know what I'm saying? We don't know. And I'm not going to say that I'm going to knock on wood because I'm hoping that that's not the case.
My head here. Just kidding.
But I think this whole thing about nepotism with them is just,
Yeah.
it's all blown out of proportion.
And shout out to my girl Savannah, because people have told me that I'll be on my Savannah tip at these basketball games with Jackson because I'll be just concentrating on my son. So I had DM'd her one day. I was like, girl, I said, somebody said, you'd be like, oh my God, you're so much like Savannah James. Like, you just be so into the game. Yeah, because I'm here for my son. I'm not here to entertain with y'all. You know what I'm saying? I'd be like,
true, though.
Here.
People
So
think
shout
that
out to Savannah.
if you a celebrity,
Lockstep with her
quote,
kids.
unquote, you supposed to be there to entertain people.
No.
Nah, I got kids, man. My kids is
Baby,
what I'm
my
focused
kids
on.
is
You know what I'm
playing.
saying? Like, I agree with
what
that.
is the AAU circuit, track, whatever. I'm
you
not
don't
there
talk.
to shuck and jive with nobody but
I feel you.
root my kids on. So yes.
What y'all think? I know how y'all think about nepotism. We had this discussion. Matt?
Nepotism is running all up and down that building and every other building. So I'm all for it.
That's a good point.
All for it.
I'm all for it. I think you bloom where you're planted. And the fact that his dad put him in,
Facts.
I won't say his dad put him in that position. I would say that his dad had influence to get him to be a part of the NBA and the Lakers for that matter. And for the most part, a lot of us are unqualified for the positions that we have in general, right?
That's true.
So it is up to you to take the opportunity that you have to bloom in that position. And I think he's doing exactly what he needs to do.
Mm-hmm.
I have no issues with it. I guarantee you, once I have my production studio, once I'm making my own films, my daughter who wants to be an actress, I guarantee you, she will be in my films. Not a day in acting school. She will go to acting school,
Right.
but it doesn't matter because
Absolutely.
I'm grooming her for what she wants in the future. So
Absolutely.
That
I'm in
makes so
agreement.
much sense, as you should.
Yeah, I 100% agree with nepotism, especially when it comes to Black folks. It's something that we haven't always been able to do. I saw a video the other day, White Lotus, the show. Arnold Schwarzenegger's son is on White Lotus. And somebody, they posted a video the other day that was like the moment that whoever Schwarzenegger found out that he got the part on White Lotus. And everybody was like, I thought they were on set in this video because they're at like a nice resort.
Right.
They're like, this isn't news, bro.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
Right.
we know why you got the part, you know?
Exactly.
But I guess sports fans are a little bit different they're a little more, a little harsher when it comes to criticism. But hey, I
Depends
think
on who
whatever.
they're harsh with. Because Archie Manning made it a point to make sure that his kids went exactly where they went. And no one had an issue with that.
Yeah, that's
He pretty much told, I think it was the San Diego Chargers, do not draft Eli.
It was.
If you draft Eli, he will go back to college and not play. So then they drafted him and traded him to the Giants for Phillip Rivers. So here's another opportunity where nepotism, a former Hall of Famer tells people in this organization what's going to happen and nobody has a problem with it.
Yeah.
But then when it's LeBron or it's Dion, oh, now it's a problem.
Yeah.
That's all it is. They
Yeah.
can kiss my ass with that. I don't care.
Right.
I hope them brothers get everything they want out of life.
Period.
Amen.
On everything.
Period.
And they could be the most mediocre player on the team.
Facts.
To me, hey.
Yeah.
You
Facts.
deserve it.
That's how it be sometimes, though, with nepotism. You wonder why
How
this
it be
person is there.
sometimes? Think about this. Think about this. In your life, have you ever seen a C average person in your life, a Black C average person, just go on and do anything like super, super great and they be like, C average got me here? Have you ever? No.
Right.
But if you ever see average and you're a white male, you could become president of the United States, George W. Bush.
Yeah.
I'm just being honest.
It's just what it is.
This is facts.
Absolutely.
He went to an Ivy League school, but he was a C average student and became president because his father was president. Like, come on, man. Like, we're not going, this is all facts. We're not making up stuff. It's not an opinion, it's a fact. So nepotism runs rampant in America. Do whatever you got to do, Brian. Jackson, whatever I got going on when you turn 18, trust me, you got a job, baby.
All the
All
boys.
right?
And I think it's also about knowing your kids and knowing like their interests. Like say Bronny didn't want to do basketball. Like then I'm sure they would have found a different avenue for him to,
Facts.
with their connections, succeed in that
Facts.
route. So it's like,
Facts.
it doesn't always have to be the same exact thing that the parent did either.
That is a fact.
You know?
I agree
Yeah.
with that.
Anywho,
I
what we
know
got?
we're not talking about finance today, but I think the audience always loves to hear y'all talk about money.
Okay.
I feel
let's
like
do
when
it.
I hear
I
y'all
love
talk
money.
about money, I walk out of here like, wow, I'm about to have $1 million later on
Right.
today. Yeah.
I love that.
Hasn't happened yet, but I still believe.
Keep the faith.
Faith.
So I just read the Washington Post posted an article today that said that Klarna just signed a new deal at DoorDash.
I saw that last
So
night.
people can pay for food delivery in 4 payments.
That's
And
insanity.
it makes me wonder, what do y'all think about these buy now, pay later companies like Afterpay, Klarna? There's a couple more out there. Op or no op?
What's the ARP on that? Like,
That's
is
a-
there?
that's
That's what I want to
interest.
know.
There's no interest.
interest.
Typically, there's no interest.
So what's the incentive for someone like a Klarna? You know, like
That's
how
a
do
good
they
point.
make their money?
How do they make their money? That's
There
a
has
good
to be
question.
like some underlying something, because listen, I understand that the price of food with 4 children in this house who are always hungry. I get why people have to like lay away food. You know what I'm saying?
Real quick, no op, because I don't know enough about the app to have an educated opinion, so I don't have one. But go ahead. See, you know more about it, so I don't
Yeah,
have
well, I've seen people with Klarna, you know, talking about, you know, the joke is that, you know, if you're going out and you want to get an outfit or you're trying to get something designer and you can't afford it in the moment, you use Klarna to
Modern
get it.
layaway?
It's like, yeah, it's like layaway now,
But
kind
I
of.
feel you. What is the like?
So
If
the
there's
way
no-
that Klarna gets paid is they take a merchant fee that is a percentage of what it costs. So the
I
idea
see.
is
Oh, so
just
they
like
get their costs from the merchant. They
Yeah.
get their money from the merchant.
Because they're
Yeah.
already elevating the price anyway.
Yeah, so it's like I used to work for Groupon back in the day, and the thought behind it is they fill seats that would normally be empty. If you give them a
Mhm.
discount, you can make 50% of what you would normally make instead of 0. So
Got
I
it.
guess that's how they can sell people on using Klarna and Afterpay, merchants rather.
Right.
I shit. Now that I know that, I think it makes sense. It's like it's another form of group economics. And this is what
Mhm.
people need to understand. Black people used to do this a lot back in the day. It used
Mhm.
to be called the susu.
Susu, Pardna.
The susu, right?
Yeah.
So it's just like we all just low money. Say we all put in $100.
Mm-hmm.
So there's 5 of us.
Yeah.
So it's Kadine's week. She gets the $500.
Right.
Right.
It's like a
So
savings
it's like
plan.
a savings plan, but she gets $500 to work to have that for whatever she wants it for that week. But then the next week she got to put in her $100, and that week goes to Josh, and it keeps
Mhm.
going. I think
Mhm.
this is the same thing. Say you don't have a group to do a susu or group economics, but you need something in that
Mhm.
moment. Okay, I'll play a premium because I can pay overtime.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that that's a bad thing, especially now with the tariffs and with
Right.
we're heading towards a recession. People are trying to find ways to survive. I wouldn't use it all the time because clearly, since you're paying a premium, you're paying probably close to twice as much.
No, there's no interest. There's no fees. You pay
I wanna-
exactly how much it costs.
Not. There has to be a fee. You said there's a
According
fee.
to
On the merchant.
Well-
ChatGPT, there is if you use a financing,
It has to be.
a monthly if you use financing, monthly payments, interest may be charged depending on the terms of your loan.
But it's only financing is only used if you're not going to pay for it in 4 payments, which wouldn't be for food delivery.
Oh,
So
I
smaller
see.
purchases, you pay
Right.
exactly how much it costs. You just split the payment over 4 purchases.
Gotcha.
So, but my thing
So-
is, you said they have a merchant fee, so they get the money from the merchant.
Yeah.
So the merchant is going to upcharge for
Right.
using Klarna.
Klarna.
Klarna. So
Yeah.
what I'm saying is, if it's the hot dog is $10, the
Mhm.
merchant's probably going to charge $12.
Right.
And then break it up into
That's essentially what
So
they
that's
do
what
anyway,
they're
though.
doing. DoorDash is already doing that.
Yeah.
right. So what
So,
I'm saying
yeah.
is
Right.
they're going to find a way to get you to spend more money over a longer period
Absolutely.
of time. But it may be okay for you if you don't have $20 in that moment, but you got 5.
Mm-hmm.
I need
Okay,
to
I
eat.
can have $20 by the end of the week.
And you got to eat. Yeah.
You see what I'm
it's
saying?
like,
So I
okay.
understand it. People trying to make it. So
Right.
I get it.
Right.
That was my op. My
Yeah.
op was people trying to eat. So if it helps, by
Yeah.
all means.
They do have to understand the long-term effects, and most people don't. Because most people would be like, oh, I could pay $5 over 4 payments. So then it's just like, oh, it's $20. Yeah, but that hot dog only costs $12. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you spent an extra
Yeah.
$8. And then people don't realize if you continuously use that,
Yeah.
now you
Right.
doubled your money. Like over the course of a year, you'd be like, wait a minute, why did I spend so much money on this?
Yeah.
Because rather than sacrificing and saving,
Mhm.
you chose to do it up front and pay more money. And that's how they get you in the trap. It's just like a credit card.
A friend of mine, she was just like, you know, talking about her in-laws were having some financial issues. She's like, but my father-in-law is still going to go ahead and get this Gucci shirt on Klarna because he knows he could pay it off over time. It was for his birthday. But I think it's
Wow.
also just another avenue for people to continue to spend poorly and not invest in the right things. Like food is different. It's like, oh, I gotta eat, I gotta feed my kids, I need groceries. Cool. But like when you're doing it for lavish things that you essentially can't afford, it's like, again, the rabbit hole of,
This is the lesson though, and how they get us. Because what Tribble just pointed out, they say there's no interest rate, no APR. So people automatically assume, oh, I'm paying the same price for the same product, when they don't realize, no, the interest comes on the back end, or the front end this time, because the product is raised 200 to 300% so that you can use it. People probably don't understand that. So hopefully somebody listening hears that. When you pay that on Klarna, you paying a premium. You're not paying the cost, which is typically with any product. Like you buy a pair of Jordans for $100, it costs you $32 to make a pair of Jordans. But when you use something like Klarna, you're gonna pay way more. That people need to understand that before they use it. But I don't see anything wrong with it, as long as you have the understanding.
Yeah, I think I don't think poor people should have to not have what they want. If you're working, if you're making money, if you're paying your bills, you have a roof over your head, you have the essentials, you shouldn't have to sacrifice everything. You should be able to do something that you enjoy with your money.
I agree.
And so, but a lot of times people who don't make a lot of money, they don't have credit. They don't have credit cards. They can't,
that is a fact.
buy something now and pay for it later like people with better income and better credit do. So I think that Klarna Afterpay can be a good thing for those people so that they can actually buy things that they want without breaking the bank, without having to sacrifice paying a bill.
But how important is the things that you want if you're not where you need to be in life?
Joy is important as hell. And I'm not saying going out to spend all of your money on things that you want, but you should be able to buy yourself something once a month. If you're working,
not if you can't afford it. I spent 4 years of not buying anything, not going. This is a fact. When we was going through our hustle, there was no designer clothes, there was no bags, there was no Jordans. I wore the same t-shirts every day.
Yeah, no
we ain't
trips.
going no vacations. And I think that's a bigger lesson for people is joy is fleeting.
So
got
is
this
life.
Gucci shirt.
So is life.
Life is fleeting.
That's my thing.
Life
if
is
I
fleeting.
spend 4 years waiting to enjoy my life, who knows where I'm gonna be 4 years from now?
That's a good
I might
point.
not even be able to enjoy my life. And for me, it's a personal thing. I watched my sister get sick at 21 years old and not be able to walk, not be able to take care of herself, and die when she was 40.
Yeah.
So
Your perspective is
understand that
different.
perspective.
Yeah, your
I understand
perspective
that
is different.
I do. Joy is important in life, and life is fleeting.
Yeah.
I think we as people need to do what's important to us. That's why I can't take away your perspective of how you feel.
Right.
Like, because you've seen someone close to you die at a young age. So when you tell people you have time, that's kind of like, nah, it ain't. So I get that. That
That's
makes
me
sense.
trying to even just get you to enjoy like the wins in the moment and not just thinking about what's next.
What's next? Yeah.
You know, or how we can
That is
elevate
true.
and do more. It's like,
That is
here's a
true.
winning moment. Let's sit in it and absorb it and be grateful in the moment, you know? So,
That is true.
Yeah.
That's true. I see
But
that.
yeah, it's two sides to the same coin,
Yeah.
pretty much, because you gotta be responsible, but you also
Same coin.
You
I
can
see what you
enjoy-
did there. Boom, boom.
That's rich nigga talk. All right, so one more topic that's gonna lead into what we're talking about today. There's a woman I follow on Instagram. Her name is Sinead Bovell. She like works in AI, and recently she was speaking at some kind of conference where she said we need to stop preparing kids for jobs because jobs are going to change. And I guess as somebody that's working in AI, that's something that you know firsthand. She said instead we need to prepare them for the problems they want to solve and how to be better participants in the world.
I agree.
Let's
I
watch
have
the
I have a
video.
strong opinion on
Yeah.
this. I agree. People get afraid of technology, but don't realize that technology has always evolved. For example, back in the 1700s, 1800s, right? When everyone was trying to figure out the cotton gin, because cotton was the biggest thing that made America a world power. If they told all kids at that time, all you need to focus on the rest of your life is how to work a cotton gin, where would we be? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But instead,
Yeah.
let's work on innovation. Let's work on growth. Like our kids are not gonna have to worry about mainframing and doing things that like my father did, 0101 when it comes to programming a computer. I did that. So let them focus on artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence to me is not the bad guy. And I know being in the TV industry, people are just like, well, what about them using artificial intelligence for actors? I'm gonna take you guys back to a little bit of time, right? Back in the day when it was just theaters, thespians were considered people who were in the theater. And then you know what happened? Cameras came out. And people started to film theaters. And they used to have these penny movies, right? People don't know this. A penny movie was somebody would come with a camera and they would film the theater. And then for a penny, you could go watch it in the little thing, watch it. And people at that time were upset, was like, no one's gonna come to the theater anymore if they could continue to watch these little penny movies. And then penny movies became movies. And then radio, then television, and now streaming. It's like there's always gonna be a new technology. We as people have to stop running from technology and understand that these advancements can be good for us if we learn them. So our kids should learn that. That's my opinion.
Yeah, so not be preparing for jobs per se.
Yeah, don't be prepared to just have a job. But that's also what's wrong with society, right? We put so much impetus and emphasis on what somebody does as an occupation. That defines people, right?
Yeah.
The first thing you meet someone, right? You don't ask them, you know, are you healthy? You know, what's your life? You say, what you do?
What do you do?
That's the first thing you ask is what
that's
you
the
do.
conversation starter.
And then people start talking about how much money they make, what their job is. And then you're like, damn, but you have a whole other life that you don't even talk about.
Right.
So I think we should stop preparing kids to feel a way about their job.
I mean, I know people who are no longer children. They're in their 30s and still don't know what job they want to do. You know what I'm saying? So it's like preparing kids solely for one particular job or one particular lane, I think is insane. I think the fact that you even have to think of what you want to do for the rest of your life at 17 and 18 years old as you approach college.
That part.
Is insanity because I've changed my mind about 11 times at this point. I'm at 41 just finding my way.
Pediatrician,
lawyer, doctor, you know, nurse,
She
all
went
with
through the whole gamut.
pressures from like my family about what I should and shouldn't do and pressures I put on myself. So my opinion is, yeah, I completely agree with her. I don't think that we should be preparing children for jobs per se. Prepare them to be good human beings, prepare them to seek happiness, prepare them to be global citizens and to travel the world and to see things and be exposed to different cultures. Like that's what we're about. Like, you know how many times I've teetered on the maybe we should just be homeschooling our children and like backpacking around the world so that they can experience other cultures. Like, man, that's what I think is important. This whole 9 to 5, I forgot when, I think I recently read an article about when the 9 to 5 was like enacted in culture, but it wasn't always a thing. Like you go to other cultures
it wasn't
and stuff,
always a thing.
And they're not doing 9 to 5. It's like they'll work for a little bit, then they'll have their afternoon tea, people go home for a nap, then you wake up again, you come back and you have your little business open for 4 hours. Like only in America do you do this.
It became a 9 to 5 thing to ensure production. I think people don't understand that about the what is it called? Capital Industrial Complex.
Yep.
Like the 9 to 5 was a place where all of the employers was like, we need all of our people who do our job to come to one central location. We're going to put hours on them. They have to clock in and clock out so we know that they're producing. Right. And then it changed a little bit over the last couple of years with the pandemic. And people were like, oh, we can work more from home. And now people are opening up their mind to the fact like, wait a minute, I didn't have to go into that office. Because think about it. If you work somewhere and it's an hour and a half commute, and then you work from 9 to 5, then it's an hour and a half commute home. You're ultimately spending 11 hours of your day focused on a job building someone else's dream.
That was me at MAC Cosmetics, remember?
Yeah.
Driving to Roosevelt Field Mall, working a 9 to 10 hour shift, and then having to drive home.
Back.
Having no life outside of that. Yeah. So, I agree.
What y'all think?
What was the question again?
No, she was talking about AI. They were saying that they're saying we should no longer prepare kids just for jobs.
So for me, I think it's more about raising children to be creative thinkers, to be tech savvy, to not necessarily think about jobs. So my opinion would be that along the same line as y'all. Like, there's no need to be raising children to be like, I'm gonna be a doctor today.
Facts.
Because the reality is that most of the jobs that we currently understand as earning jobs will be gone completely. Absolutely. Right? We already see automation happening in auto industry, tech industry. That's the same thing is going to be happening for the medical field, robotics and AI taking over. So raising creative thinkers, entrepreneurs, people who can, or children who can create jobs based on their own interest or the needs of society
I'm glad you're
is
saying
probably the best route to take, as opposed to jobs that started during the industrial period,
Right.
or
Yes.
jobs that started when we needed
Yes.
to build America as a country. It's now innovation. So yeah, I'm with it.
I'm glad you brought this up, Triple, because I have a very unique thought, and I want to hear what y'all have to say after it. Go ahead, Matt.
I agree with y'all, but at the same time, I'm also like, I just thought of it. It's like, no, we need some of these jobs. We need some of these parents to push people to these jobs, because some doctors only became doctors and became great doctors because our parents pushed them to be that.
That is a
That's
fact.
Sanjay.
That is.
We
that
might
is
not
Sanjay.
have a lot of pros in specialists in these areas if people not pushed to those areas.
That is a fact.
That's the only thing I'm thinking about.
That
now.
is a fact.
Mm-hmm.
Because if everybody
We
says
were
I don't
always
want
If
to
gonna
be
be
a
everybody
doctor,
is loosey goosey, like I
Yeah.
want to be creative. Like today, I'm gonna switch. I'm gonna do something else. But we need somebody who's gonna dedicate to this.
Yeah, we're always going
Yeah,
to need
but the
medical
creativity
professionals.
can happen in the same field itself.
I
right?
agree. I'm just
You think
saying from
about-
the standpoint of I'm saying as parents raising kids, we can still guide them towards something.
Yeah. You're
Like,
saying
to a
everybody shouldn't be a
specific
content
field.
creator.
Hell no.
I got you.
Hell no. Please stop.
do not gear your kids to being a
Subscribe
content
to my
creator. Trust me,
YouTube.
do not gear them to do that.
Subscribe
Do
to
not.
my YouTube.
That happens organically when they find something they want to do. But if you gear your kid towards being a content creator, they're going to be the worst content
That's
creator
a dead
ever.
end job.
Trust me.
And that's not going to be a job in 10
That's
years.
a dead
Nope.
end
It's
job.
not.
It's not.
It's not.
It wasn't a job 10 years ago.
That part.
No.
It's not.
Tribby.
Well,
Oh, sorry.
what you think, Trib?
Yeah, I think teaching kids how to solve problems, making kids aware about what the problems are in the world so that they can, either be interested or not interested in figuring out a solution and letting them, develop their own career based on that. Also, I feel like supporting kids in the interest that they show and their talents as they're growing is super helpful as well, because
For sure.
even within certain industries, there's more jobs than what kids know or even parents
Facts.
know are available. Like
That's true.
as a child, I wanted to be an actor and a singer.
Mhm.
My first career day, I went as a superstar, a movie star actually.
Mhm.
But I didn't learn until after I graduated college with a business degree that I could be a producer or I could be, something else in the industry that wasn't necessarily a performer.
Mm-hmm.
And if I would have known that before, I probably could have honed some of the skills that I was teaching myself or went to college to learn some of those skills professionally and not have taken like 5 years to figure
it out.
Yeah. But also, I think a problem that we do have that some kids should be encouraged to try to solve is like, we're about to run out of electricians. We're about to not have
Yeah.
enough plumbers.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Everybody
More
wants
trades.
to do something fancy.
Trades.
Trades.
Yeah.
We was just talking to the
Yeah.
young man that was in the house. As y'all see all the
Yeah.
work was done. There was a
Mhm.
young man, shout out to Mr. James. He brought a young man, Colin, by the house. Colin was 14.
Wow.
And he was here middle of the day. So me and Matt was like, yo, this is impressive that you have a young man in the middle of the day learning about a trade. And then he was just like, yo, my mother is a real estate agent. She always needs work done on the house.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna learn how to do this. But that also goes to what Matt was saying and what Josh was saying. He had to be here because the people in his life told him, you need a mentor.
Mm-hmm.
So they forced him to do something, which is what Matt was saying.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What Josh was saying is he realized that his mom sells houses, but they need people all the time to fix electricity and plumbing.
Yes.
So he figured out that he wanted to focus on that.
Yeah.
This is going to bring me to the legacy you build for your kids outside of finances, right? I said to Kay about a year ago, Kaneen, it's going to sound crazy, but
Everything sounds crazy.
what if
My baby he prefaces everything by saying, I know I'm going to sound crazy, but, and I'm like, what is it? Tell
I
me.
do know, but
Tell me.
what if our kids never worked? And what if we never put on them, you have to go work for somebody? For example, I'm confident that we are going to be worth over 9 figures, right?
Speaking.
So in that case, do I have to go out there and tell my sons, y'all gotta go out there and get more money? No, I don't have to. But what I can tell them is like what you said, Triple. There are problems going on in the world. You think you want to solve some? Take the money that you've already accrued, we've accrued as a family, build something, create something that's going to help solve that. I watch Will Smith's son, Jaden.
Yeah.
He's focused on hydrating the planet. And he
That's
came
right.
up with this.
That's his thing.
That's his thing. And
Yeah.
I'm like, that's so dope. that people don't even put. And I see some comments. People like, look, rich kids get to do whatever they want to do. And I'm like, yeah, here's a rich kid who can do whatever he wants to do.
Right.
So rather than go out there and take every role because he's Will Smith's son, he's choosing to take his money and invest in something that's going to help people and the planet.
That's a great point.
And I said to Kay, I was like, what if our kids do that?
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit here and tell Jackson, like, well, you better be a first round pick and win Super Bowl. No.
Yeah.
Dad, I don't want to do this, man. What do you want to do? I want to be a humanitarian. You know, I want to get some land in Africa and I want to build this and I want to do that. I'm going to be like, fuck yeah. Because at this point, your occupation does nothing to us as humans.
I mean, why do we have occupations? To make money.
Yeah.
Why do we have jobs?
Yeah.
To make money.
Yeah.
So it's like if you now have built the legacy financially for your children to be able to then impact the world in the way they see fit, then it's like, why not? That was the whole point of it anyway.
That part. That's what you're working and building towards, to give them that freedom to go and be a productive member of society.
Yes.
Now I'm going to tell you something crazy.
Right. It's when they piss it away that that's a problem.
Now I'm going to tell you something crazy, right? I had this conversation amongst some of my cast members. I'm not going to say which cast members, but they, of course, were women. And they were like, I don't know. If I met a dude who had money who just wanted to save the world, I don't know if I could marry a dude like that. And I said, you see, that's the mindset we were brought up with. We were all brought up that your occupation defines you as a person.
Right.
And the minute I said he doesn't work, but he's doing, you automatically went to he's not working because he's lazy or he doesn't have no, and they were just like, oh, I didn't realize that. I said, but we all do that.
Yeah.
Because I was pushing Jackson for that same reason. You ain't gonna be a lazy man. You gotta get a job, you gotta work this many hours, you gotta do this. And then over the last couple months, when I wasn't working as much, and I realized how much effort and energy I need to put into my kids, I'm like, yo, what if I stop chasing dollars? Okay, we make money. What if I stopped chasing dollars and focused on how I could be a better human? Shouldn't more people do that? And that to me is what's important about legacy. Because legacy, even with Hove and B, people give them the legacy card because they made a lot of money. But there are people who have legacies who are not rich financially.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? There are families who have done things in the world that have changed the entire world that people have never heard about. Look at Sheryl Lee Ralph's kids.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're in the process now of starting their stardom.
Yeah.
I know her son just got a role in a
Christmas film. Yeah, Etienne and Ivy.
And they're doing that on the side.
Right.
Their main thing is
Walk Good.
Walk Good, right?
LA, yeah.
That to me is like, yo.
Yeah, shout out to Etienne and Ivy. We had them on last season. Yeah.
I think we've reached a point in our lives, Black people, where we're no longer the first generation to do stuff. My father went to college. Okay, he got his associate's degree. My mom didn't get her bachelor's degree, but I can't sit here and say I'm the first Ellis that did something. My parents have done things and put me in a situation where my life is way easier.
Absolutely.
Like I understand my privilege having both my parents and them instilling this in me. So I'm like, let's move it forward.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like my story, my legacy don't got to be I came from the gutter, got shot. You know, I sold drugs. That's not every person's story.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
My legacy is going to be I had a really good father who also had a really good father.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be a really good father.
Right.
And I have a really good wife because my father had a really good wife and his father had a really good wife. And legacy to me is passing on those things, not just money.
Yeah. That's
You know
why I
what I'm
mentioned
saying?
culture and heritage in my soundbite when we first opened the show, because I look at, like I said, when I went back home to my dad's country and my mom's country, it's like seeing where they've come from and the strides that they were able to make coming over here at, 17 and 19 years old and working at Burger King and building, you know, her life up, my mom, and becoming a nurse and then being able to give us, my brother, my sister and I, the opportunities to be able to essentially do whatever it is that we wanted. Like that was the one thing that my mom has always said to us. She's like, I worked so hard to ensure that you guys can do the things that you want to do. And
That's a fact.
Not the things that you necessarily had to do because that was me.
That's a legacy.
That's a legacy, you know? And then when I look at my kids now, like the other day I was in the car with Cairo, we were going to a birthday party and he was like, Mom, can I DJ? So I was like, all right, cool. My boy has the most extensive, you know, taste in music. On a hour-long car ride, we went from a little rap, so it was Lil Baby.
He started with Lil Baby.
Tupac.
Pop Smoke.
He go to Pop Smoke.
This is Cairo?
This is
Cairo, right? Then we jumped over to some worship music.
Who does this sound like, by the way? I just want you to, because you know who it is.
Who?
Your brother.
My brother, true.
You know what? That is fact.
That is
That
true.
is a fact.
Tristan is
Because
huge in
Tristan was
music.
watching that Chosen.
The Chosen.
And it's the
right.
same person
You're
who will
absolutely-
sit here and talk
What do you think
talking about
about that?
some God ain't real. The pyramids was created by aliens. Then in the next day will be like, I just watched Chosen and I
Right.
believe everything that
I
they
think
say.
about the
I'm like-
goodness of
I'm
God.
like, Tris.
But that, yes,
But
you're
that's-
right.
but that's important,
But that was
though.
Cairo. So
Yeah.
it's like we're listening to worship music, the goodness of God and everything. And then we go to a little Bob Marley. And I was like, wow.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
said to him, I said, you know what, Cairo? I said, I appreciate your taste in music. I said, we've been on a journey. I said, but I feel like we need to start playing some more music from like Mimi and Papa's country because I feel like my legacy, who are my children,
that is a good
it
point.
can't die with me. Like they
Right.
need to hear some Barris come on and be
That
like,
is a
oh,
good
bop,
point.
bop, bop. Like that's the tune. You know what I'm saying? That's how we grew up.
That's important.
So it's like now just like playing more music in the house and then taking them places and experiencing different cultures, not just where we're from.
Culture and
like,
heritage is important. They
culture,
took our
heritage is
culture
like
and
mixed
heritage
into
away from us.
legacy.
When we came over on the Middle Passage,
Absolutely.
all of our culture and heritage was taken from us. So that's a good point. If you can keep that alive with the younger kids, teaching history, especially history in a world that is always whitewashed.
Absolutely.
That is-
they're
that's
trying
a
to
very
take away
important
from
legacy.
us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
didn't think about
that's a portion of legacy that's not money related that I think is so rich
Yeah.
for us and our families moving forward.
I didn't even think about that because your family, but us from immigrants, both your
Yeah.
mom and your dad came over here at a young age. So I didn't realize how important that was to you. But now hearing it, it does
Yeah.
make sense
Yeah.
because our kids won't only be able to say, I'm American.
Yeah.
Their family, their lineage, their heritage goes way beyond
Way
that.
beyond it. Way
And
back.
I think we all, as Black people, need to start doing more lineage to find out where we came from. Like our story doesn't start here in 1619.
hmm
You know what I'm saying? Like our story
Mhm.
starts way before that. And I think it's important that we use the knowledge we have to continue to push that forward.
Absolutely.
saying?
Absolutely. So we can open up the legacy conversation roundtable if anybody else has any 2 cents that they want to add to this legacy.
I do have questions for
conversation.
because I wonder, like, Matt, you don't have any kids yet. Tribble, you don't have any kids yet. Do y'all think about how, because me, Josh, and Kay have kids. We know what it's like. When you wake up, do you think about like, I'm going to do this for my child when? Or is it just like, I'm only focusing on my personal legacy right now?
Yeah, I used to think about it when I wasn't, when I didn't think I was too old to have kids.
You think you're too
Do you
old
want
to
to
have
have
kids
kids,
now?
Triple? I never asked you.
I do.
You do?
I
Okay.
do.
You're not too old.
You're not too old
Yeah.
at all.
You're not
Sakari can help you too if you need help.
Okay, thank you so much. Thanks for volunteering.
I know a lot of
Matt.
guys that want to help you too.
Absolutely.
I don't know if you want that kind of help, but there's a lot of guys that's watching right now be like, please, if she needs the help or practice what it takes to get there. Tribble, you
Tribble
gotta
is
see
not
my
interested,
DMs
y'all.
every time you're on my page. They're like, whoa, I didn't know you had a sister. How did you get here? You just want to know.
Right.
You just want to know some info.
Right.
But no, but go ahead.
That is so funny. But yeah, I do think about that a lot because, yeah, I think my parents did the best they could with what they have. You know, they
Mhm.
have barely, college diplomas. They worked and survived. And
Survival mentality.
Yeah, and
Survival and scarcity.
and I had the
mindset.
best of what they had to give. I think I'm
Yes.
the
'Cause you're the
youngest
youngest.
child.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think that if I do have kids, that I could give them more than that because I've learned so much even from what I have and from what I don't have.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think about that all the time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for me, I absolutely think about it. I try to take steps from right now in my career path so that I could try to set up place for in the future, so that I can, like, even with my art, like,
Yeah, talk about it. So I want to talk
my
about
photos. Like, I want to be able to have an extensive gallery that even if I'm gone, my kids can have that and pass that down. It can accrue wealth for them.
Yeah.
And have a freedom for them.
Yeah.
So I think about that from now. Yeah.
See, I one thing I noticed from everyone here is the freedom,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, it's not just accruing wealth to say I have money. It's
Yeah.
accruing wealth to give my kids freedom to do whatever they want to do as young Black kids on this planet.
Yeah.
That's just the bottom line. We haven't experienced that. Like, I haven't experienced that
Mm-hmm.
in my lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
But it would be good, like, to be able to be like, Jax, what you want to do? Go ahead. Walk free. We talk about it all the time. Being
Yeah.
able to walk free.
To walk free.
But there's one thing you did bring up that's important. You can't get freedom without capitalism in this world. It's impossible. The only way you can get some sort of freedom is if you completely go off the grid and be like, I'm not buying in at all to any of these things.
Mhm.
But at some point, you're going to get to a point where you're going to need something or
Yeah.
someone who is in this, I forget this capital industrial complex, or is the capitalist industrial complex. At some point, your life is going to cross there, and we can't ignore that and say that finances don't matter.
Don't matter. Exactly. To wrap it up, I guess, one question Triple had here, I guess this could be for me and you and Josh. What scares you about how your kids may turn out? Interesting.
That scares me already. I don't even got them.
Yeah, right?
Yeah,
Exactly.
it's a thought.
I'm going to be honest. Nothing scares me because I know my kids are not. I'm involved in my kids' life. I'm never going to say the TV, the iPad, or this. My kids are going to hear my perspective. But now that I'm saying it, I am afraid. I'm afraid that I was wrong about something. Like this.
Explain.
You're afraid that
This
you
is-
were wrong about something you taught them.
Like, for example, this is the question I always ask my dad, and I used
Mhm.
to cry asking him this. What if we're all wrong about Christianity?
Mhm.
Mm,
And he was like, what you mean? I said, you told me based on the Bible that I have to believe in Christ and I have to believe in God and I have to do all these things to go to heaven,
mhm,
right? But there's thousands of other religions that are contradictory
mhm,
to Christianity, which means somebody's right, somebody's wrong.
mhm,
What if we're wrong? And that's
Mhm.
my only fear, is that
Mhm.
everything I believed or thought or was working on towards building my family is wrong. And now I've indoctrinated into my sons
mhm.
a wrong belief system, which is why
That's
I'm so
pretty deep.
open to listening, because I never want to be that guy that's just like only think one way.
Right.
So that's my fear. Now that I said it out loud, my only fear is being wrong about what I thought and teaching my kids that. I want them to
Right.
be open-minded
Right.
to listen.
But I think with your intent and your heart and the things that you know deep down, it's like, no,
Mhm.
I have only the best intention for my children, that I don't feel like you'll
But remember we
have
talked
to
about
deal
that
with that.
intent versus impact?
I
You
know.
can intend
I
to
know.
do something, and if it don't land properly, it
Right.
can impact that person in the wrong way.
Right.
Like, for
It could
example,
negatively impact them.
there are tons of older white people now our age who grew up during a time where their parents believed that slavery or their grandparents believed that slavery was okay. And they've
Yeah.
indoctrinated into these young white kids
That mindset.
that mindset. And now they're older, realize like, yo, my grandparents was wrong. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
What happens if you don't get that realization before it's too late? Maybe you've done some things and now you die. Now you got to meet your maker. And now your maker tells you all these things you did in life were wrong.
Yeah.
You followed them. That's my biggest fear, is that I
Mhm.
might have led my kids. That's why when my kids bring me questions, like I used to bring my parents, I don't
Yeah.
shun them or shame them.
Yeah.
I say, where did you get that thought process? Let's discuss this together.
Oh yeah.
Or
And
let's-
there's a
let's
lot of that
look at-
happening
yeah.
as they get older. And I think maybe because we have the open door policy with them where they feel so
Yeah.
comfortable coming to
Yeah.
talk to us about stuff. It's like, okay, we ask questions and they give us honest answers. At the end of 2024, we were like, all right, what do you guys want to learn more about or do more in 2025? Cairo was like, I know. And what was the
Dad,
first thing he said?
He want to learn about God.
More about God.
He asked me at 8
Literally.
years old, he asked me, he was just like, Dad, where did God come from?
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, well, I said, had you asked your Papa Scoop? Because my father's a deacon, he's
Yeah.
been to these classes and learned some of these things. He was just like, no, I didn't ask Papa Scoop, but I figured I'd ask you. You know everything. Man, when I tell you the pressure to try to answer this question.
Sound like me
Mhm.
start stumbling, right?
Yeah, I was stumped. I was like, well, the first thing I said was, God is a concept. And he's like, what does that mean? I was just like, well, there's no proof. We have to believe and have faith. And you show your faith in God through your works and what you do in humanity. And at 8 years old, he was just like, that don't make no sense. And that's when I started to get scared, because I'm like, how do you explain to an 8-year-old the concept of God and faith? You know
Without
what I'm
scaring
saying?
them either.
Without
When
scaring them.
'cause
Because
that
you're
used to
right.
scare
That
me.
was
was
me as a
terrified.
kid.
I literally remember sitting in my front room as a kid, and one day, you know how they said God just gonna come back on one cloud?
Yes.
I remember there was one cloud in the sky one day, and I was staring. I was like, "Yo, I think trumpets might go off today."
I have them
The Bible
feelings.
says no man knows the time nor the hour, and I'm sitting there,
Right.
Yo, it's about to be a rapid
It's
fire.
gonna happen.
And I'm like, I don't want to hear the thunder and I don't start rising. If I stay here,
Why
what
they
does
floating and
that
I'm not?
mean? You
So,
know?
y'all want to hear a funny story? Y'all know about the rapture, right?
Yeah.
You know about the rapture, Trouble?
Mm-hmm.
So for whoever doesn't know the rapture is the idea that God is going to come back and he's going to take all of his people who believed in him with him to heaven, and everyone else here is going to stay here. The world is going to collapse. And then when they die, they'll be stuck in purgatory. So I remember waking up in my Nana's house, and all of my parents, aunts, and uncles had all left. We would all get together for like a family reunion. But our parents would do stuff like we all go to sleep at night, and then you wake up in the morning and they be gone because they don't want to do the big goodbyes. You know, we all young kids. I remember bawling my eyes out because I thought the rapture happened and they were all gone. And they left, and all the kids got left here. And I remember thinking to myself, what am I gonna do? My parents are gone. I'm gonna be in purgatory. No idea what purgatory was. But you know, you go to church at a young age and you see the cross up there and you hear this, you do this, you go to hell. You do this, you go to hell. You sinner, you sinner.
One person's going to be in the bed, the other person's going to be gone.
Bro.
You're going to wonder what happened. So I understand how you got to that
I
thought.
literally woke up and
Right.
it didn't help that they had a rapture play in my church. So I watched the rapture play and I watched them do like the fake disaster scenes. By the way, would be a really good movie. Like the rapture movie where
Let's talk
God
about
comes
it.
down and takes away 1/3 of the people.
They have a few of them.
They do?
Mhm.
Are they good?
I haven't seen them in years, but there's a few.
That with technology
Oh
the
my
way it is
gosh.
now, could you imagine? It would be like the end of the earth.
It
would
I mean,
be
there's
like
a couple
Paradise.
of those end of the earth
It
stuff
would be like
happening.
the show Paradise.
Yeah.
In a way, yeah.
Where you
Yeah.
got to start over and figure it out. But
Right.
watching
And who
everything go
goes
to
and who
shit.
stays and whatnot. There's a show, I think The Chosen, Cairo was like, I want to watch that when we have our date day or
Who's
day
that?
night. It's The Chosen. It's
The
about,
Chosen, that's the one your brother was watching.
So I was like, okay, so he really be wanting to know about this stuff. So now I have a responsibility to make sure that my boy is learning more about God. So, you know, it's
That's
also
actually
helpful that they're in a Christian school, so they're getting a good foundation, and then we just have to kind of nurture that outside of it. So
I think that's important too when we talk about what we pass down to our kids legacy-wise. It's a spiritual foundation. Because if you don't have a spiritual foundation, you can be really lost out here.
yeah,
Imagine if you don't believe in anything or anyone or any idea that there is better for you if you work towards it.
right.
Then you out here, you 18 and you randomly lose your job because they decide to downsize.
That's
Now
a
you
fact.
just, my job was everything. That's who I am. And now I don't have my job.
Mhm.
And then people go nuts.
Yeah.
So legacy is passing down a spiritual foundation. as well.
Absolutely. I think the only thing that scares me about the kids or how they might turn out is just the world around them. Like
Yeah.
everybody else. My mom used to say it all the time. She's like, I don't
Yeah.
worry about you. I worry about them. Everybody else. The world. That's what I worry about. And I'm like, I freaking understand it now. It's like, but so much we can do as
Yeah.
parents in a controlled environment that is our house. But the minute you leave those doors, you know, I'm already a wreck thinking about Jackson being in college without me. Like, it's the world. It's everything else. It's all the other elements that just scare me.
Can I tell y'all something and y'all gonna think this is funny, but I don't think it's funny. I think the world is better now than it's ever been. Think about it. We've come from world wars, apartheid, genocide, slavery, right? Think about all of those things that happened, right? Those are the worst atrocities that happened, right?
Well, they're happening in other parts of the world now still,
No,
though.
but I'm talking about where we are, our world.
Our world right here.
I'm not
Okay.
saying that America's a perfect place, but what I'm saying is we are learning as a people from history, and people are trying now not to duplicate the same things that's happened in the past. I think part of the problem is social media has put us to the point where anything negative that happens goes on social media and it gets sensationalized. Could you imagine if social media existed during slavery, how bad the world would have looked? Could you imagine if social media existed during World War I?
Mhm.
Could you imagine if social media existed when Leopold was in Africa, killing 18 million, 20 million Africans? You see what I'm saying? It's like where we are relative to where the world was in that moment is nowhere near as gruesome. Think about the Crusades, right? The Christian Crusades. They were just going around killing millions of people in the name of God. You know what I'm saying? The world isn't as bad as it was then, but we're living in it now when we get to watch in real time. So, and the reason why I say that is not to say that I think the world's in a good place. It's really just to say we have a responsibility to teach our kids to be better.
Agreed.
You know what I'm saying? And if we teach them to be better, all of us, the world will be better.
I
That
think
to me
that's
is
the
ultimate
overarching
legacy.
topic.
Yeah.
Yeah. As we round out this before we pay some bills, the last thing that came to mind for me was this past Christmas, Jackson wrote a letter to DeVal and I for
Don't make me
Christmas.
cry, bro.
And it was a 3-page letter that he wrote. I think it was like after his Bible class or something. But guys, like DeVal and I sobbed when we read this letter.
Because understanding.
because it wasn't only just, me being a grammar police. The way it was constructed, the way his thoughts were so put together.
Seriously.
And then the way he expressed his understanding for what it means to be a parent raising a child.
Oh my gosh.
That letter was deep.
Yes,
yeah.
Matt got to read it. Blown away by my 13-year-old and the way he was able to express himself, and the candor and the eloquence in that letter was unlike anything I had ever seen. And it just made me feel like we're doing a great job.
Yeah, we're doing the right thing.
We're doing a great job. Protect Jackson at all costs, because he's just such an amazing individual. And I'm so inspired by my children, but him being the oldest, and I see how much he's working to be the best version of himself in every aspect of life. It's if that's the beginning of what our legacy looks like, dab me up, Ellis.
Yeah, part on the left.
Yeah.
Y'all doing it.
Thanks, y'all.
Yeah.
All right, before we start sobbing
I know,
here.
that's why I ain't saying nothing. If I start talking about it, I'm going to cry. I'm not crying on Ellis Ever After. I cried on Deadass Podcast a couple times.
Me too.
You see how I brought that together? Masculinity.
Let's go. Take a quick break and we'll be back with listener letters, y'all. Hey y'all, what's up? You may know us from our YouTube channel, The Ellises, or from our Webby Award-winning podcast, Deadass with Kadeen and DeVal. But guess what? We wrote a book, y'all.
That's right. We Over Me, the counterintuitive approach to getting everything you want out of your relationship. Available now in hard copy, ebook, and audiobook, wherever books are sold.
Get you one or two. All right, and we're back with listener letters. I hope by now you guys have figured out the new email address, so that way you can write in and hopefully get picked.
I got to put this out here first. I fully got dressed first, and I know y'all see us matching, right? And before y'all think, look at DeVal dressing like Kadeen. Nope. I put this together first. I was ready first. And
he was ready first.
Wow.
So the funny thing is, right, I'm like, oh, now that I'm trying to get dressed for the podcast since we're doing it new, I was like, let me just start running out some stuff in my closet, that didn't fit me before, honey, that fit now. Okay.
Oh, it's fitting.
It's fitting. And yeah, so when I saw him dressed this morning, I said, let me start at the top of the closet and work my way this way. And this was one of the third or fourth outfits that I saw. And I was like, she fits and she matches. So yeah, I did. Yes. I matched your fly today.
I inspire her.
You did. You inspire me every day.
Yeah, you inspired me too with that outfit.
I'm sure.
I'm going to show you that inspiration later.
I'm
Trust
sure.
me.
Back to the task at hand. Hey, Kadeen and DeVal.
That's always the task at hand.
True.
Don't get it.
This is just ancillary shit we're doing here. Hey, Kadeen and DeVal, love the practical adulting and relationship episodes the most, and I have no dating life or experience by choice to bring up anyway. I've been going through some monumental changes in the last few years and have some incoming financial comfort. I still live in my childhood home with a sibling and their child since our parents' passing. As soon as they can handle the property, I'd like to live alone in my late 20s in New York City before a man and family enter the picture.
Smart.
I have no idea where to start, and there seems to be some shock or confusion from our extended family about us or me doing so in the near future. My credit is good, already invest and have a profitable side hustle / skill.
Hey.
I make good money for a single young woman and very little expenses or vices. This is sounding good.
Triple eyes perked up. What you looking for?
I know. A wife. My imminent financial situation may allow me to become a homeowner in my own right, but not sure the landlord life is for me, seeing how bad tenants can be, and that responsibility is what I want a break from. Any advice would be appreciated. The roommate thing is off the table, and staying home is no longer comfortable for me. I'm ready to see who I am without family in the next room, up the block, and around the corner.
I understand her on this. I have very quick advice, right? I would say right now the interest rates are extremely high and everything is high. So it's about to be a seller's market. I would save as much money as you can in the next upcoming months and buy a property. as opposed to renting. Because all you're going to do when you rent is give your money to fund someone else's dream.
Mhm.
Hopefully, over the past couple years, you've saved so that you can put a down payment, 10% on something, a condo. In New York, getting a condo in New York is going to cost you
That's gonna
upwards
cost
of
$800.
$800,000.
Mhm.
So you figure 10% of that means you have to have $80,000 in the bank. And if you don't have that, I wouldn't move to New York. Now, if you want to rent in New York, a nice apartment anywhere in New York is going to cost you over $4,000 a month, which
And
will
that's like
cost
a
you
1-bedroom.
about $48,000 a year. So think about your choices before you make them. Living in New York is one of the most expensive places to live. It's New York and California. So those are just some things you have to think about. But I would definitely go to buy something before I rent if you don't want to have the responsibility of paying someone else's bills.
Right.
But I do understand that being a landlord is troubling. That's why we chose not to be a landlord in New York.
Absolutely.
Being a landlord is New York, one of the hardest places to be a landlord because once someone
Absolutely.
gets there and they don't pay rent, it's going to take you 6 months to a year to move out. And if people start to squat on your land, it takes them even longer to get out.
Absolutely.
So I wouldn't do no properties in New York right now. That's just my take.
Right. I mean, if you were going to purchase something in New York, I would say then you live in it and not
Facts.
get it as like an investment property where you're
Facts.
doing rentals. But it seems like you have your head on pretty straight, boo. Like
Facts.
you got your
Proud of
ducks
you.
in a row, you know, and a lot of times you got to kind of wait till the right move, like not just jumping into something because you feel like you're starting to get a little uncomfortable. But I think you have everything set up.
She said something that you said before.
What's that?
She said that she wants to live on her own without a man or kids before she gets married.
Yeah.
I agree with that. Kadena and I both
Yeah.
say if there was one thing we could do differently just by choice to learn ourselves,
Mhm.
it would be before we moved in together, she would live on her own and I would live on my own, just
Right.
so that we could see what that feels
What
like.
it felt like.
Because
Yeah.
we've never had that as adults.
But I think us trying to be adult in our thinking and trying to be wise at the time, financially, it didn't make sense.
At
like,
all.
if we're together, we want to be together.
Facts.
It's like, why would I go get an apartment and you get an apartment just for the
Facts.
sake of saying that we have our own apartments to
Facts.
essentially probably stay in either majority of the time? It just didn't make sense. It's like, why not just pool our resources together and live in one place
Facts.
and pay one rent? You know, so that was what we did. But yeah, in hindsight, we're like, it would have just been nice to have a little bit of that. You know, here's my place. You can come by. I'll give you a key. Maybe.
Maybe.
You know,
You said maybe?
maybe.
I wouldn't need a key.
You might have get the door
I
code.
wouldn't need a key. Trust me. I'm like Tribble. I'd find the code and I'd be in your bed sleep before you get there.
You're gonna go
Naked too. You gonna walk in there like, Deval. Like, what's up? How you got here? Don't worry about that.
Don't worry about it.
I'm on the 54th floor.
I'm
I got
happy.
strong arms.
I'm happy you're here. Good to see you.
Where you at, Kadeen? Where you at? That's how I would be.
You absolutely would be like that. I know that.
I'll be
So
all on you, girl.
listen, ain't nothing would change pretty much. So good luck to you in your future endeavors. It seems like you got your head on straight, as my grandmother would say. All right. So
If you'd like to be featured as one of our listener letters, email us
I forgot
at
about that part.
Ellis Advice. That's THEELLICE@gmail.com.
all right, y'all. Moment of truth time. We're talking about legacy. I guess at this point in its totality, not specifically having to do with money, but knowing that that will help to give you some autonomy over your life. So what's your final thoughts on that?
I do got a lot of thoughts, but this one thought really came to my mind after we had that discussion is, man, I just don't want to fuck my kids up.
Mm-hmm.
Like legacy, everybody thinks legacy is I did this, I won this many, I made this much money. Nah, man, I have 4 beautiful humans that came from us two, and I really just don't want to mess them up. I want them to be strong, free, powerful Black men. And to me, that's going to be my legacy. All 4 of my boys lined up doing whatever they want to do in life, having autonomy over their time and space and everything. And that's what legacy means to me.
I love that. Yeah, for me, it's just being more deliberate, I think, as our boys get older. Speaking specifically about our family, just being more deliberate about the things that I want to pass down to my children, the things that I want them to know and to see and to feel when they think about who am I as a person? Where have I come from? You know, as my parents get older now having lost, actually yesterday was the 1-year anniversary of my grandmother passing, my last living grandparent. And I just think about the richness of my culture and my heritage and like how much they've taught me, those experiences that I've had with them, the things that I know will live on. What happened?
Remember I asked you
Uh-huh.
2 days ago, I said, Mom's walking around with a heaviness. Like, what's the matter?
Oh,
And then it hit me,
shoot.
grandma's passing.
Yeah. I didn't
And
even think
I
about
didn't even
that.
think about it. I'm thinking of myself like grandma passed, not even thinking about how mom
My
might be
mom.
feeling.
Yeah.
I really didn't
I
think
didn't
about
realize
that.
the
I gotta
date
hit her.
either until yesterday. I was like, oh, shoot. We were actually
Right.
filming, and I was like, oh, shoot. Today is the 1 year anniversary since that. My aunt called me, and I was like, oh, yeah, I think I know why
Yeah, I
she
didn't
was
even
calling.
put 2 and 2 together. I gotta
Yeah.
hit Mimi up.
Yeah, it might have been the approach to
Yeah.
this. But yeah, so just thinking about how much I am because of the legacy that was
Mhm.
instilled in me through my grandparents and my parents, and then how fortunate we are to have my parents here with our children,
Yeah,
your parents
yeah.
here with our children, so that they can tell the rich stories and they can, learn the recipes. Like Papa
Right.
Scoop been making sweet
Sweet
potato
potato
pies
pie.
out the wazoo because all the boys love the sweet potato pie. But that for me is also legacy wrapped up.
It
It's
is.
not just about the financial portion of it. It's about the richness of who we are.
For me, it's to keep building capital, to give my kids the freedom, give my wife and kids the freedom in the future,
Mm.
and then also thinking about more cultural moments and things of that nature that I want to pass down in the future. For me,
sure.
I don't got kids right now.
I like that.
Yeah.
My moment of truth is if you aren't thinking about legacy, you just think about my moment of truth is if you aren't thinking about legacy,
Mhm.
you're only thinking about short term and you're
Mhm.
only living in the moment.
That
I
is
like
a
that.
fact. That's really good.
Mhm.
See, Josh always be coming with the concise points, and he'd be like, "I don't like to be on camera." That was good, bro.
I
Chat
think he's
GPT.
over there asking ChatGPT to come up with a moment of truth.
Well, first off,
He
I'm
mad
not.
now.
First off, I'm not. And secondly, I didn't really get to talk about legacy in this episode.
No,
Having Victoria. So I think about legacy. Legacy is a constant conversation in my household.
Oh, good.
And I'm constantly thinking about my own legacy because I don't want to poison my daughter with my bad habits.
Ooh.
So I think about it constantly. And Victoria, she's a mirror of myself and Anika, and she's her own person. So I'm constantly thinking about legacy. So no, it's not ChatGPT.
No, but the serious question though. So you think about like her being a wife and how she's going to be, like the type of man she chooses when you say you don't want to poison her.
all of that. I'm thinking about the type of wife she will be, the type of earner she'll be, the type of person in society that she'll be. And I don't want my bad habits to rub off on her. She said something last week. She was making a video, whatever. And she's like, this is my parents. They're so overprotective. And I was just like, I didn't want to ruin her video, but we had a conversation after. Well, I talked to Anika afterwards. I was like, yo, Victoria said we're overprotective.
Right.
And then I had to have a conversation with her because I don't want her to be a fearful person in life because
Facts.
we're overshadowing her.
Facts.
But I had to correct her. I said, yo, we are not overprotective.
This is
You
protection.
have a cell phone, right? Like you watch almost anything that you watch that's age appropriate, right? Like,
Right.
you know, you go on play dates with your friends, we take you out. You're not overprotective. I said, what we are is protective of you, right? And I don't want you to misconstrue that with being overprotective because people who are overprotective, I know.
Yeah.
You see them when they get to college, they on girl,
Yeah.
wow, they do all
crazy.
sorts of stuff, right?
Yeah, I know.
And having a daughter, you're constantly thinking about the decisions that I make, the things that I say to her, the way that I act, the way that I treat her mom, the way we treat each other is going to literally have an effect on her because it is a direct representation of what she sees every single day.
It's so true.
Right? So legacy is constant. Anika talks about it almost to a fault because, you know, her own, like how she grew up, her parents.
Right.
And we want Victoria's life to be easier than what we had. And we want Victoria to make her children's lives easier than what we made for her. So
I want to touch on that in
I
the
think
after
that's
show
great.
of what that looks like from a father to a daughter. Because I only know from a father to a son. And sometimes I'll say to Kay, like, you do realize how you behave is how the kids are going to view women.
Yeah.
So their ideas of what women are supposed to be come from you. Hearing you say that from a father to a daughter, I could see how, like, that's a lot of pressure. Because you're hoping that your daughter at some point gets in front of a man or deals with the type of men that she understands what the type of protection looks like. And and what love looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's different for boys because I can hit my boys in the chest and be like, man up. You can't do that with your daughter.
Yeah.
I wanna ask you in the after show, I'm gonna ask you some questions.
There was a quote on Instagram. I'm sorry, I don't want to make this too long, but there was
No,
not
go
a
ahead.
quote, but there was a video I saw on Instagram, and it was the joy of the daughter or the future of the daughter, her happiness is a direct result of how her mom is. Like how her mom is, her mom's happiness.
I see
right?
that. I could see that.
And I think we had a conversation about this
We
a
did.
while ago.
I remember we did.
Yeah. I want to make sure that I'm not making my wife miserable so my daughter doesn't become miserable.
We talked
You know
about
what I'm saying?
This.
Like,
we talked about this.
It's a crazy concept to have, but Victoria's direct influence from women is her mom.
It's not a crazy concept. It's the truth. I said the same thing, right? With single moms who raise boys, who end up raising the type of boys that are fuck boys, are the same men that they hate. It's the same thing. A dude has a responsibility. You have a daughter. Your daughter is going to end up dating the same type of dude you are because that's all she sees as a man. If you a fuck boy, your daughter's going to end up with a fuck boy unless she has a mentally strong mom who points out the fact that that's not how all men behave. But even in that, you're her father.
Yeah.
Her mom saying anything, you're still her father. So it's interesting to me because now I'm thinking about the type of women my boys will bring home. I hope they have the type of father in their life.
Yes, Lord.
That's going to show them what it means to be in a relationship. You know what I'm saying? In a relationship. We talk about this with our sons.
Right.
And I'm like, hey, they're
and
going
have
to
mothers
choose.
who take care of them
Yo,
too.
It's just interesting to hear a father's perspective with
Listen.
daughters. Like we talked about that. We should do a podcast about that, Tribble. Can you write that down? Because I'm really starting to see a big thing with, now I see why daddy issues matter. And people think that it's just something that people say, but it's not.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. Like how girls see men directly correlates to their father. Same thing with sons and their mom. I want to really explore that.
I'm here to change the legacy that Triple has for me. I think I need to rely on ChatGPT to generate my own thoughts.
You see how he brought it back to you, Tribble? Tribble, why are you coming back to you, Tribble?
Well, Tribble's going to round out the moment of truth anyway, so.
Get him back, Tribble. Go ahead. No ChatGPT. This is all TRIBBL.
BBL Tribby.
Tribby.
BBL Tribby. I like that's a hit.
It is though.
This can be a new theme song.
Legacy. My moment of truth is lately I've been thinking about, even if I don't become a parent, there's a lot of kids in my life that I do have an influence on. I have nieces and nephews. My friends, my close friends have children who look up to me. So I try to do my best every day and leave the best impression that I can at the people that are watching.
Same.
Yeah, because they're always watching. Them little kids, they're always watching. They're always watching. All right, y'all, be sure to follow us on Patreon. If you have not, shout out to our Patreon gang. We love you. You can see the after show there as well as more exclusive Ellis Ever After content and family content. Don't forget about that. And you can find our new Instagram page. Please follow if you haven't. Ellis Ever After on Instagram. You can find me at Kadeen I Am.
And I am DeVal.
I am at _Matt.Ellis. I'm sorry, people. Just click on the.
And I am Joshua Dwayne. That's JOSHUA _DWAIN.
And I'm at Tribs the Cool, TRIBBZ the Cool on everything.
And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, be sure to rate, review, and subscribe. And as always, we gonna be dead ass.
That's right, baby.
Cut.
Ellis Ever After is an iHeartMedia podcast. It's hosted by Kadeen and DeVal Ellis. It's produced by Tribble. Video production by Joshua Dwayne and Matthew Ellis. Video editing by LaShawn Rowe.